Hey, how's it going? I actually started a second ago, but then I dropped the phone and stopped the video, blah blah blah. So please look at my signs. Why does that look like it's not getting on the picture? For the disclaimer purposes and the CYA purposes. Okay, so I have some cards. I have two from the Declarations of Mary Magdalene deck, a yesterday and today set. And I also am going to move from the topic of the last two videos, like about the nesting boxes and things, and move to a new topic. As I've mentioned a lot of times, there are multiple unfinished business, past, history stuff that wasn't resolved to people's satisfaction because, like 100 years later, we're still arguing about the Civil War. It's been longer. I'm just not counting, okay? But it was in the past. It's history. And so the next one, speaking of the Civil War, topic that I want to move to is black people stuff. And that's a very wide and deep subject, so don't expect me to be able to talk about everything from every angle, and certainly not in this video, but I just have to do it spontaneously or whatever. So here I go. Last year, I started noticing online in my YouTube feed, Black Jesus. And the first time there were documentaries about a Jesus who was black. It was the truth because of the time period and the location. And there were no Swedish Jesuses where Jesus was born at the time. According to the reporting that we have. And so the first time I saw that, and I said, oh my, that's going to piss off the racists. And I don't want to start anything. I don't even have to. They always start it, the racists. And then, sure, you always start stuff with people of one or two other races, and it's always the same issues, but that doesn't make you racist. Okay, maybe that works for you, but to the people that you're saying your stuff to, I feel like it's safe to say that they would beg to differ. So I watched it, and it was stuff that was really in my timeline at the time, where it was religious scholars but studying banned books and lost gospels and things that were excluded and almost completely lost to history because the church didn't want them there because of what their messages were. So I always find the rebellious stuff interesting. And I learned about that for a while, and then it kind of went away. But there's something I've always noticed, ever since I was a child, about the black people in the United States, at least. And that is that regardless of the fact that in a lot of ways we're just kind of always under some kind of attack, either verbal or someone's plotting one, they just can't stop thinking about how much of a problem the black people are for them. And just in my lifetime, there have been numerous, I can think of three, I guess, off the top of my head, Charles Manson, the McVeigh kid that was one of the people that blew up Oklahoma City, and somebody recent whose name is escaping me now, but it's probably a name like a lot of people would know. And they're the let's start a race war people, or if this happens or that happens, or if we make this or that happen, it's going to spur a race war. And it's like, if one was going to start, first of all, I don't think it would be the white people starting it, because why? What are you warring against exactly? Like, it's always been like a you have the ball situation. So that's my opinion on that. But you know, there's the whole like being ripped away from your continent, and I don't care about who was trading who in Africa, or like even if it was black people trading black people, doesn't matter. I'm talking about what happened on the way here and here. That was Americans, so like, don't get it twisted, I guess, but all that, whatever happened over there, that's not the point. I'm talking about what happened here and what kind of still happens in a lot of ways. And I always think about this sort of conflict that's not an actual conflict, because it's kind of manufactured, because who's always starting the stuff? I'm sorry, I only know of mobs of people in peaked hooded bedclothes showing up at black people's houses to terrorize and intimidate them, or like beat them up, or in cases of like Medgar Evers or Emmett Till, assassinated them, and many other cases. And so, and then there was the whole like rash of strange fruit trees popping up for years, mostly in the South, which unfortunately there's been a resurgence of that. But like I said, unfinished business on some of these. I mean, they are massively meaningful, even over time, to, well, black people, for one. Like, we like never leave the equation on that. And, you know, inventions, creations, talents, that all gets appropriated, it seems like. You know, it's like the white people have their thing, and for a while it was like, only white people over here, you can't pee here, you can't eat here, we're gonna make you go out back and like you're a dog waiting for scraps, even though you want to pay, because you have jobs, and you're also people who would like to sit down in the place and eat their food while it's hot. You know, it's like deprivations like that, so that ain't cool. But, you know, again, what you don't see is black people at their establishments barring white people. Like, that don't happen. They, like, don't probably show up very often, but if they did, I just don't think they would be treated that way. And not just because there's, like, a threat of violence or danger. If you, in some places, I think still in the United States, smaller places where the white people are outnumbering the black people, hostilities might still completely be like in place as if nothing ever changed over the past 60 years. That it just happens. There's places I think like that all over the whole world. So, but I don't think we should like. I mean, I don't know how you would discourage it, but I don't think we should encourage it. And the only reason I think that like anyone has a skin in the game besides the racisting are the people that it's happening to, who conveniently have less of a voice than everybody else, but are much like the Latinos being picked up by ICE. they're doing all the right things as far as immigration. They're at the places they're supposed to be with the paperwork and have done all of the things they're supposed to do, and they're getting picked up in those places despite years of, if you do it the right way, you can stay, and just yanking them out and incarcerating them and just keeping them penned up and doing stuff to them. Like, who's in charge of that? Not the black community, I bet. I mean, it's crazy. Like, the high crime rate, the black people's crime is so terrible and bad. They make it sound like you're going to walk down the street and there's a mugging right here to your right, and on your left someone's getting robbed, you know, in their business, or, you know, like, here's somebody over here just beating people. Oh, look, it's like that has never happened in my 60 plus years. Like, so why do people act like that is the case? Like, that seems like to be the logic between so many people not of color arming themselves for the big race war they're all waiting for. And again, it's like, if one starts, it ain't gonna be you guys to start it. You don't even have grounds. Or, you know, you start stuff and then you're like, oh, it's a terrible thing, and then I gotta fix it. And it's like, none of that is real. In fact, it often I don't think comes to actually ever be. It's just a narrative that gets told back and forth to people. Why? I don't know. That Nolan Wells kid that was just unfortunately lost in a really sad situation, I learned some things about it from a psychic, from a couple of psychics actually, and they both agreed without talking to each other. Like, they don't consult each other before they do their readings on the shows. Like, they generally don't like to pollute their own systems with other people's noise so that their stuff comes out clear. So, two of them, independent of each other, said that the kids, that he was the only black kid there, so all of the other kids, or the ones that were there that were involved in his demise, I don't think it was a discussion, but there was, I guess, a feeling of, like, envy or jealousy, to the point where it just made them mad to see someone who excelled so easily and was, like, good-natured and a good friend and loyal and reliable, I guess. And I mean, there are a lot of very good descriptions of this kid, and I would imagine, because he was still in school, the academic and athletic honors are on record. So, I mean, it just looks bad for these other people that survived this outing together. And that's sad. Like, really, just because he's genetically gifted enough to just be gifted, like, that's a reason to eliminate a whole person and their existence? Like, I don't think I've ever heard of a group of black kids, I'm sorry, like, maybe, like, in the big rumor mill where the crime is so terrible and it's everywhere and, oh my God, get a gun. I still don't think, like, any of us grabbed one of them and ganged up on them and, like, you know, ended them. Well, for one big obvious reason. It is a dangerous thing to do, to go out of your way in that way. Like, every one of those kids would probably, if they made it to jail, they would probably never see the light of day again. So that's a deterrent, and that actually works for a lot of people. But they just happen to be the black people. But what I'm getting at is, if anyone was going to rise up and flip out and go off on everybody, yeah, the black people, it makes sense that they would be a candidate. But the thing is that, we always see, when I say we, I mean the black community, like black people. We see how we're treated by law enforcement, and it seems like way more than is necessary for whatever's happening, particularly when the person being accosted doesn't survive the encounter. And it's always about something that's not worth dying over, like selling loose cigarettes, or I don't even know what George Floyd was supposed to have been doing, but I know that he had encountered that officer before, and the officer did not like him for, gee, I wonder why. He might have been racist. So, we have reason to have, like, risen up and gone crazy. And not, there's been, like, whole towns slaughtered, businesses and all, because they were successful and they happen to be black too. Like, that cannot stand for some reason with, like, unfortunately, too many white people. It's just dangerous, and I can't believe that the rest of us have just let it happen, because, and they're so afraid, like, they're afraid of an uprising. But be sure and keep doing the types of things that would cause one, like if you really want a race war, I don't think it would be what you would like, what you would think. There's a lot of, like, unacted upon, like, probably rage in a lot of people because of centuries of this kind of treatment, where my perception is, for the most part, everybody just wants to be able to go to work and come home and be with their people and have their little, vacations and buy a few nice things for themselves and their family, and just regular old working people who just happen to look wrong to other people. And it's crazy, the blame that the whole community gets for, like, these nightmares they dreamt up awake. It's crazy. I don't understand it. So I always kind of wondered about why, even though there's, like, a high availability of, you can get a gun real easily, and a lot of us black people do possess them. So I don't know, like, what are they thinking? Although I guess I know what they are thinking, and by they I mean the black people. Like, well, why haven't they risen up? Well, it would just be too much trouble, and we would lose, pretty much, because I think, like, it wouldn't just be the white people. I think even the other people of color, some of whom would join in on, like, let's get them, let's just slaughter all of these problem people. People got a lot of weird underlying stuff that, I don't know, like, what degree of processing has been done, but it seems like the processor is, like, messed up or something, or out of order. And things just, in the cases that I'm talking about, things just seem really raw and out of balance and out of control, kind of. Like, people, it's fear, I think, a lot. And then people's fear, they let that run away. Like, their imagination gets all charged up by the fear, and that distorts, I think, perception. Because here's, like, one of the other sides of the coin with this race business is, like, it's fine to have black women raising the children. And I have a theory on that, and I think it's because they know that when they're in the care of these women, they're going to be well taken care of, and they're not going to be, like, acting crazy because, like, misbehaving and acting out, because black women don't want to deal with that. Like, they will not take you out of the house. Like, it's somebody else's kid, so you can't, like, give them a spanking if it was your kid, but you do have to discipline them in some way. And generally, they're just not going to take any crap. Like a grown woman, a black woman, is not going to take crap from a child that still needs to be educated. Like, they can be mouthy, but they don't necessarily have the intellect behind it. Even if it's like and this is a far out concept, but even if it's an aware reincarnated child, like, that's been here before and remembers stuff, they still are the child, and they still, I think, are going to behave like a child and have emotions like a child. And then they need someone that's not going to let them run wild and go nuts. Like, discipline, and it doesn't mean striking the child, just order and letting them know, like, what's going to fly and what's not. And it's like, what's going to get the TV shut off and you stuck with just a book? You know? Like, they know. That's why they leave so many of their kids in our care. Or Jamaican women, also black women. Same thing. They're not going to, like, raise your child to be some kind of wild animal. And they know this, so how come they're okay there, but other places you got to follow them around in the store because they might have stolen everything, or they might steal everything, or cross the street because here she comes with her purse. And just, by the way, just as nervous about who's going to leap out and attack us. Like, hi, that happens to us a lot, just random attacks. Because why? It's the race thing. Sorry, it's just very irritating. I've seen it happening my whole life, and I know that it's happened for much longer, still happens, and it doesn't just happen to us, these things that I'm talking about. Not all of them, like some, yes. But other people suffer harms and abuses at the hands of, like, the accepted authority types in this country, because that's another deterrent. You know, your white complexion does give you an possibly unearned level of authority, because you can be you can be in the same position as the black person across from you that you want to accuse or get in trouble or whatever, but they can't do that to you. Like, even if you did legitimately do something, where in this case I'm saying the person of color legitimately didn't actually do anything. They're just, like, there and look like a scapegoat or something. And it's upsetting because people don't understand, like, why that is. And you'll see this in the Native American community too. They have been terribly treated by this country and the people, not just the government, but, like, the people who just go along with, yeah, they just go along. So they have seen much the same thing. They've been through much the same thing. And both people have had uprisings, and they have not gone well. And so you pick your battles, you know? And I think that's why you don't see... That's why it looks like dominance everywhere. That's because it's not dominance. It is restraint. And it's just wisdom. Like... So, what I'm getting at is, I think that there's a lot of misinterpretation of black people in the black community. And I know, like, Godfrey, the comedian, has a channel on YouTube, so he has an ongoing series about the mistreatment of black people. And he would, I don't think, disagree with the fact that there's an unfair balance in the treatment of, you know, people of color. But, like, I can only really speak to being a black person, like that particular color person. But if you look around and you look at what you don't see, rather than what you've been told your whole life is there, even though you're not seeing it. You have to realize you're not seeing the wild in the streets crime they make it sound like. So, I found a video, I found a channel that just gave me some interesting information, and it kind of backs up this restraint and wisdom I was just talking about, and the reason why, like, beyond what I'm saying, like, just general makes sense self-protection, it has more to say about why they're talking about black people in particular, but I think it's also true of the Native Americans, like why they just, it's hard to explain to somebody who's not a person of color to understand what it's like to fear being besieged by your fellow Americans, especially when you do like all the right things that you're supposed to do. Like, these people are always telling you got to do things the right way, and you know they do all kinds of stuff, and like what, you don't have to follow the same rules and boundaries. Kinda, that's kind of what it is, and it stinks. But I found a video that, boy, it made me feel better about a lot of things, because it talks about all of the kind of stuff that I talk about, and spiritually, and a lot of stuff that I haven't specifically talked about here. But Black history was like a big deal, started being a big deal when I was like 9 or 10 at school. When I was in school, they would still teach you about Black history, and there were books available in the school library even of Black people, they, like, other than Martin Luther King, because there's a lot of them, like, over the years. And then, you know, we have these waves in the culture, the entire culture, the collective culture, where, you know, the fair weather is over with those friends, and it starts getting ugly and raw and rude again, which is where we've arrived at. But that's a consequence of a lot of things trying to resolve at the same time, I think. 1 second. So I just wanted to get off and rolling on that. I think I have much, much more to say on the subject. So I'll start with these cards finally. First one is number 23. That is the number I associate with angels, just the number of angels rather than an angel number, if that makes sense to you. Okay, this card reads, "Thou shalt not know thy divine self when thou let thyself be detained in the false perception of materialism." So, materialism, I always think right off the bat, acquisition of stuff and having of the stuff, like designer crap and, you know, Tesla cars and things like that, like expensive, like high ticket stuff. But also, it's, I think, the spirit, sort of a spirit of a thing. Like, it's more abstract than just, you know, an object with a price tag. It's the spirit of needing to acquire the things for the sake of appearances, mostly, because very little of the really expensive stuff is really any better than some cheap crap. That's been a new revelation for people. They got designer, like, Italian brands, and thought Italian artisans were sitting around hand sewing things, and no, they were sending that design to Japan. I mean, not Japan, China. Japan's getting a bad rap every time someone says the wrong country. It's Japan. The Islamic Republic of Japan. I'm sorry, that cracked me up. But anyway, yeah. So, materialism, the spirit of it is like, because you don't even have to really have the stuff. Think like MTV Cribs, where everybody's like showing out all these expensive cars and properties and things, and turns out those were rented, and they lived in like, what was that guy's? They lived in Red Man's house on the couch. Like, everything is so much for appearances and like fake expensive stuff that makes you look cool, makes you look like you know, you made it, I guess. And I'm laughing because it's, well, false, as it says here, the false perception that like it's good. Like, for instance, I'm not really that impressed anymore for a long time now, but it's fashionable now to not be impressed by someone having a lot of money, and in fact it's kind of gauche and gross and, you know, not cool, because the people with the money seem to think that they can just boss you around, and because they have more money, and I can't see much else reason they think they're better and they should like rule everybody else and tell everybody else what to do and how to live their lives. And it's like, no, you don't get to do that. You're the worst person to do that. You don't understand these other people's lives that you're just randomly deciding to negatively affect. But that is a false perception, because you have a bunch of zeros behind your name at the bank account place or whatever, wherever you deal with your money. That, you know, it does give you more power, I suppose. Like, you can buy more lawyers and find ways to, like, loot people of their meager belongings, because that's what you maniacs like to do with your time and your money. And it's like, wow, you are scoring all of the wrong kind of points, in my opinion. So, you won't know your divine self when thou let thyself be detained in the false perception of materialism. Yeah, what I just said. What I said. What she said. Okay, so this card is number 11. My favorite. Your master number. 1 is a master number, so 2 ones is master. I don't know. It's more. It's double. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. If you would like to know more about the master number thing, you can, of course, search it. I encourage you to. So it says, thou that wishes to harm others in any way, seen or unseen, leaves thy kingdom until thou see the reflection of thine own self within others to heal thy wounds. So, that couldn't be saying more clearly that you're blinded. Like, it might be because you have more money and stuff and you think that makes you better than other people, and then that leads you to think that you're going to go control other people, and people are successful to a degree at that, but boy, it looks so bad. I don't think you can just keep doing it to people. And so this one just kind of goes right along with it. But this does talk about, like, getting away from yourself. Because when you're in that position and you have all this money and power, it's not really real. It can end at any time. Look at Bernie Madoff. Like, he had a high position and a lot of money, and that was all gone really fast. So he was a criminal, and he definitely was doing bad things, but he didn't get in trouble immediately. So, you know, there's that. He got to live in the illusion that, you know, taking advantage of these people with their fortunes, basically, was a good thing to do. Like, it was working out for him in the moment, but then it turned sour and went bad, and he literally lost everything. So, he was very far away from his true heart, his sacred heart. But when that all goes away, you know, you got jail time and you got a lot of contemplation time, and then you realize that what you're left with, your only real possession, is what you got in here. Like, can't take that away from people, but you can take it away from yourself. And I think that's what happens when you get lost in all these false perceptions. And we have like an epidemic of that, not just of the rich people or the wealthy people or whatever word you got for even richer and wealthier, or just everybody, people, other people over here and right next to you or whatever. I think all of us have kind of gotten away from your sacred heart, which, you know, that everyone has that, and it is of value. You know it is when it gets hurt in you. And so, like, we, like, lose ourselves in this dream of power and money and possessions, and it just warps us. It just makes us weird, and we behave strangely and against our own wishes, and we may not feel the effects of what it does to us, but it, in all likelihood, what it's doing to other people can almost immediately be seen, observed, witnessed. And so, like, if you don't, I think, if you, like, if your life ends and that type of thing is unresolved, then your descendants, and then if you come back, if you reincarnate, you still have that, like, on your plate. And it's, I'm gonna say, probably look different because you've been reborn, and you're gonna have a whole new set of issues to deal with, but you'll have, as you did the first time around, every opportunity to make the change and the turnaround and find your way back to your sacred heart and truth and reality, where, you know, you're one person, you can only use as much as you personally can use. And I think that holds true for just about every material item a person could want. And you don't need everything you want. What you need is what you need. Okay, so thou that wishes to harm others in any way, seen or unseen, leaves thy kingdom. So I just talked about that. Until thou see the reflection of thine own self within others to heal thy wounds. So what I take that to mean is, it is almost following like my billionaire example, where they're just, you lose sight of, like, the other people who lose because you have to win at every cost, and the cost ends up costing these people that get hurt. Don't lose your track. You stop being able to see yourself as this person of lesser means and therefore lesser power. You start losing sight of the fact that that is also you without the set dressing. You know, like, without, like, you're, like, high on your own supply. You forget that, like, you can lose it all in any moment. And it's happened to people with way more money than Bernie Madoff even. Look it up. So, yeah, but just start healing yourself and maybe repaying debts and helping heal wounds that you've left on other people. I think you get to a place where you stop being able to see who you were and who you were when you were yourself before, like, all of everybody, all the yes men and the money and that delusion of power and, like, being better. At that point, I think nothing will crack through until you're able to relate again basically to the people that you hurt, or to the people that you were before you had the power to hurt other people. And so the reason why I was thinking that these cards had anything to do with what I was talking about with the black thing is because there obviously is still in a lot of minds of people that think that, like, black people were slaves, so they should just go back to it. And it's like, well, we didn't want to go to it in the first place. You're out of your freaking mind if you think you're going to drag us back to that. But as farms are failing, there's plenty of YouTube videos where you can see farms are failing, and no people that they've brought in, except for the ones that they voted to get taken out, can do the job. Like the white people, some farmers did try white people. There's a video of it on YouTube, and no one seemed to be able to last for more than half a day. Like the work was too difficult because it was unaccustomed work. Like no one, like if you haven't like started young, squatting in a field and jumping up and like whatever you have to do to harvest whatever's you're harvesting, strawberries or whatever, you got to get down there and get it. You can't like mess it up while you're, harvesting it. There's like a lot more to it than it seems, and certainly just the physical exertion alone, if you have not been doing that since you were young, it's gonna be real hard to do it like efficiently for a job. Like they can pick it themselves and take all day, one person. They need people that can do it quickly and efficiently, and then everybody gets what they need. But we don't have that anymore because unfortunate voting choices have like decimated the workforce. So a couple of them, not too many because they're wiser. I give the other ones credit for being, but there have been a couple that have been, oh, come on, black people, come back, we need you. First of all, we're not in any better condition to do that. We haven't been cotton picking in like hundreds of years, like almost 200 years. What are you talking about? Get out of here. I don't even know that I want the people that have been doing it, that were doing it. If at least if they're still willing to do it, and I think there's people that are willing to do it of both of the other groups that I talked about. If they could, I think people would just want to contribute. They want to help to like the greater good. That's like even my feeling. And I even talked about it recently where, why do we have to make it so hard? Like, why don't we bring farming indoors out of the 1,000-degree heat or whatever precipitation happens, and like maybe do raised beds if we don't know. I don't know. Do we have to still do dirt? Can we do hydroponic? Can we do both? Like, what works well for what thing? But make it like I want to say like almost like a union type thing where it's a building that it supports the workers of the union, and I don't want it to be like exclusive or anything like that. Like, you should be able to become a part of that union as easily as you can of Costco. But just that structure means better working conditions for the laborers, for the people working, and better pay. And why wouldn't you want to make the people working for you happy? That's when you get the best work out of them. That's when you get people that want to come to work. But I think the money and the power like fritzes their brains, so they think, oh, we don't have to treat you like people anymore. And it's not them, it's you rich fuck. So, I think that's it for now. Thank you and good night. I'll have more later.